Good morning, everyone. Again, it's excellent to be here. I'm so happy that you all could join us. My name is Eric Marsh Sr., and I'm the co-founder and executive director of the Fathering Circle. My partners, Billy Yalowitz and Leslie Rivera, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today. We started the Fathering Circle in 2016 as part of an art as social justice project called Philadelphia Assembled. It was organized by lead artist Jana Van Heswick. And the Fathering Circle aims to build fathers' connections with each other to sustain us in a more fully engaging with our children, challenging the limiting effects of our socialization as males, and better supporting our parenting partners, in particular mothers in their liberation as women. Through listening circles, collaborative arts projects, play dates, and family gatherings, we're building a community of fathers, children, and families. We focus internally on deepening our relationships with other fathers and building tools to free ourselves of the constraints of traditionally enforced unhealthy male behavior patterns. As we develop our parenting practices that nurture, respect, and empower our children, we seek to bring our stories and perspective as fathers to a wider public through our documentary filmmaking, performances, public workshops, and forums. Under the direction of our co-founder, Les Rivera, we created this short film that can better introduce you to the Fathering Circle. So please enjoy. Black guy,
a Puerto Rican,
and a Jew walk into a
playground,
a bowling alley,
a music class for toddlers.
Sometimes they are with their children,
And sometimes it's just the three of them planning a meeting,
or they are in the midst of a small group of other men,
listening to each other about the joys and the daily calamities
of being a father.
It started with Billy and Les.
I saw a short video that Les made of his daughter's birth announcement on Facebook. A mock horror film, his head over heels love for his daughter undisguised. I thought, this is my guy.
Then we met Eric,
who arrived to a father's meeting in my kitchen with his curious and talkative 21-year-old son, not yet a father in tow.
Over the last 10 years, I had been working with fathers organizations around Philadelphia, as well as rites of passage programs for African-American boys.
When we met for coffee the next week, he confided in me that he was excited about working with fathers.
More excited than I could show.
The leadership team was complete.
All right, can we start?
In preparing for the Fathering Festival, Eric, Les, and I have been meeting every couple of weeks with a group of dads in my living room. This is kind of the bread and butter of the enterprise. These evenings often start with a tentative air. In the moment I open the door to greet them on the porch, each man's face shows something of a 6-year-old boy arriving shakily at a group play date where he doesn't know the others, wondering if this will be a spot he'll feel welcome and maybe have some fun. What has unfolded surprises all of us continually. We talk about our lives as fathers, what we love about our children, the daily emotional and physical and financial challenges of parenting, what we discover about ourselves as nurturers, and what we can't yet figure out about what is still new and unfamiliar to many of us in these roles.
Each and every father that we've talked to in these father circles have had a story that we all identified with. And that is really helpful. Strength in numbers, that sort of support, you really can't get that anywhere else. So going through the good times and the bad times and know that you're not alone is what makes these father groups everything.
Okay, you ready? Oh, you gotta go hold something in there. It's okay, tú estás bien. Oh my God.
Party day. It's okay.
Oh,
look at that. You got it from a box?
You got sunglasses too.
Jack. We're twins.
What were the highlights? What did you appreciate about getting to be as a play day?
Everyone was just really kind with each other. And even when Aaliyah and Maz was on the little bouncy horse, and Aaliyah was like, yeah, and then Maz went, oh, we all took him on. Like just checked in with her, and then she started crying. And Aaliyah was like, I'm sorry. And I was gonna mess with her, like, see, you did that, but I was just like, no, it's cool, she'll be fine, whatever. These moments, I've never seen anything like it.
The thing that I was really struck by was the way your son introduced himself.
Oh,
And I'm like, please tell me what you did.
Because I want to pass that on to my daughter.
Well, oh man, my father always told me to be a man, you got to see it. God rest his soul. I wish he was still here so I could bounce things off of him. You know what I mean? But just teaching Rayvon a basic handshake. I'm just starting off from scratch. I'm just freestyling. I need to see trying to shake a man's hand properly. Squeeze a little bit, look a man right in the eye, you tell them your name, they ask you their name. And I use it sometimes for like if I forget somebody's name, like, introduce something. You know what I mean?
I never felt like, the men were off to the side somewhere and the kids were just busy doing them. There was always a constant flow of parenting and involvement and interaction with other people's kids. And I just thought that was really good.
But the one moment I remember is when my daughter used a napkin and put it back on the fresh pile of napkins. He was like, no, don't do that, before I can say it. But I think that was symbolic of the whole village thing. You know what I mean? The whole it takes a village. Because before I can even say it, and I would have probably said it wrong. Oh, don't do that. But he was like, right, no, baby, don't do that. You can't put that on top of it. And she just did. She just moved it just as nicely, and it was cool. And I think that, and I tell people all the time, when you meet my children, you got the green light. Like if y'all ever see Rayvon somewhere as he gets older, doing anything you're not supposed to do, boom, you remember me? Check him. Because I would be more upset with you if you didn't do anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for him saying, for Eric to say, look, don't do that, babe. Boom. And it was cool.
As we talk, the faces change and soften, almost despite ourselves. There is knowing laughter of recognition. The guys listen intently. There are tears. We are continually surprised.
I believe that it's a really important initiative, and it's rare that people talk about parents being taking care of their kids. And it was the first time for me to be in a room in which parents came together to talk about parenting and being a parent. And I thought that it was definitely very special. Yeah.
In subsequent evenings, we talk about the residues of our boyhoods.
Violence on the schoolyards, our own fathers way more distant than they or we would have ever wanted.
We listen to each other describe how all this plays out with our own children.
And how we each struggle not to act out at our wives and co-parents the sexism,
El sexismo,
that we were saturated with.
el cual conocimos desde que éramos pequeños.
We begin to learn parenting tools, build relationships with each other and each other's children.
Father Circles have been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed being able to have a moment to sit back and contemplate about being dad with other dads who are doing the same thing. And the ability to meet such interesting people who are fathering in different ways, but all have the goal of being as good at this as they can be. That's a lot of fun.
Get ready for it, buddy. Oh, watch this. Oh, Daddy almost took your daddy out.
Comenzamos a aprender lo que necesitan los padres y aprendemos construir relaciones entre nosotros y nuestros hijos.
We see the project in solidarity with mothers.
As we learn to back each other as a community of fathers, building more equitable parenting practices, we want to support the women to create the kinds of life-family balances they would want.
It wasn't until I was 24. This was a huge shift in my life. When I was married and I was doing everything I was told. And, you're supposed to keep women in check and this and that. And it was just like, if I'm doing everything right based off everything I was taught, why am I not getting the desired results? And that's when I finally figured out this must not be the right way. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, huh. And since then, I have been trying to deconstruct the misogyny, sexism that I've learned over the years.
The world plays a trick on you to make you believe that your manhood is defined by how many women you sleep. However, it's actually the opposite. Your manhood is defined by how many women you don't sleep. I think the whole objectivity, the sexism, the misogyny comes into play when we start having sex. It's confusing as a man, but we have to reprogram our sons to, like, look, that's not what we do.
And I think, I don't know if any of you saw your partner or any woman ever give natural childbirth, like have babies.
Yes.
And anyone think that women are not the most powerful entities in the universe. Right. After that, I think that any boy who's playing around in high school or whatever, you see that the power of the entire nature is just in that moment.
El Fathering Circle ha formado un consejo de madres para ayudarnos.
The Fathering Circle has formed a Mother's Council to advise us along the way.
When we started out, we were, it was kind of writing the things like, I apprenticed myself to people. And not many of us ever got a chance to apprentice ourselves to a father or to be around small children, with any kind of guidance when we were young. And I think there are more opportunities now to do that than there were, at least when I was little.
We're creating a circle of Philadelphia fathers committed to ongoing engagement of our children.
Estamos creando un círculo de padres en Filadelfia
toward building communities and families of resilience,
resiliencia,
respect,
respeto,
and equity.
Equidad.
So thank you for taking a moment to watch that. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll be happy to answer your questions. A little closer to the end. We're not that far away from the end of our presentation, but all of us who are fathers have a great deal in common, right? And that's one of the things we wanted to convey with that short film, and one of the things we, drive home when we do our circles. And that one of those things that we have in common is that we all love our children immeasurably. We all try our very hardest to give them our very best selves and our clearest understanding of the world. We push ourselves with everything we have against the conditions that are unfavorable to parenting in this oppressive society, where children, care work, parental labor are all considered to be of little importance. In our society currently, less and less resources go to children, families, and education. And the effects are increasingly harsher on all kinds of families, especially those who are targeted by racism and are in the most vulnerable positions economically. As fathers, we deserve to be comrades, and we need to join together to fight to make a society in which all children of all kinds of families and all parents can fully flourish. As fathers, we find ourselves in a brand new type of relationship with human beings, our children. And we have this largest of responsibilities and opportunities to care for and raise them. We want to stay central in their lives where they want us, close and present, playful and wise, fully human and alive. The last thing we want to do is hurt them the way we were hurt as children, and particularly for us as boys. As males in this society, we have been dehumanized. As boys, we were kept at a distance from nurturing and tenderness, the very qualities we want to offer our children. As men, we've been prohibited from showing our struggles and healing from them, yet we do our best not to pass on those hurts and the violence and dehumanization that we've absorbed since our boyhoods. Many of us struggle not to hit our children, not to walk out on our families, to provide economically for our children. As much as our own fathers, whether they were present in our households or not, did the very best they could with us as children, we want to do better. It's a daily struggle for us. It is the most important thing in our lives. And even with our resilience and strength and creativity, we find we're often ill prepared for our parental roles. We need to heal ourselves so that we can be the parents that we really want to be. We need spaces to recover from the negative effects of male socialization, even as we learn to appreciate our own strengths as fathers and our innate goodness as human beings. By doing our healing, we learn to see strengths and goodnesses in others, particularly the mothers of our children. Sharing in the raising of children is a rich and complex opportunity to be close to the mothers of our children. A great deal of cooperation and communication is necessary to make this collaboration work well. As fathers and relationships with female parenting partners, we often struggle to communicate clearly and to share the work of parenting and domestic labor equally. We struggle not to act out sexism towards the women we are parenting with. We need tools and perspectives and support to recover from the confusions about females that we grew up with as males. We need to unlearn the oppressive messages about females that were forced on us. As confused, scared, desperate, and angry as we may feel at any given moment, given the conditions of parenting in this oppressive society, at our core, we are horrified when we do oppress the women we are parenting with. We try and we fail and we learn to apologize. And we slowly get smarter and clearer. If given the chance, we're always striving to learn how to do better by them. In the fathering circle, we offer tools and support to overcome the harshness of male socialization. We want to interrupt the transmission of this harshness to the next generation and to the women with whom we share the work of parenting. As we begin to learn to be close to each other in a brotherhood of fathers, we will grow in confidence in our parenting, and our children and families will benefit. And I want to say, I'm just grateful for this opportunity that has been thrust upon me and my partners, Billy and Les. When we first came together as part of Philadelphia Assembled, it actually was Jana Van Heswick, the lead artist for Philadelphia Assembled, who saw that fatherhood, not manhood, not maleness, not men and boys, but fatherhood specifically, was a topic that needed to be explored deeply. And as part of Philadelphia Assembled, the whole purpose was to imagine a new future, a new Philadelphia, but a new world. And what would fatherhood look like at the center of that? And so the work that I do in relation to the fatherhood is dedicated to my sister, Denise Valentine, AKA Story Mama. She was one of the lead editors on the Philadelphia Assembled project. And she was the person that introduced me to Billy and Les and saw the work that I was doing in communities with fathers and how it meshed with the work that these two men were doing with the fathering circle before it became known as the fathering circle. So again, I just want to, dedicate this to Denise and to all of those out there who are doing the work to liberate women from the oppressive effects of male socialization and all the work that's happening to liberate men from this oppressive society. I like how the fact that Baraka mentioned in this chat, I like how the organization came into effect. It is inspiring to us. And that's the whole purpose of showing that, right? I think there's no way that we can really convey better how the coming together of men in a safe space can really allow us to remove the shackles, the layers of misogyny and violence, and just disconnect from our humanity. That's what we need to be. We are human beings that connect with one another. And so, again, I just want to say thank you to everyone that's out there doing this work. I want to thank Men Engage for putting on this symposium. For anybody that's interested in connecting with us, you can follow us. You can reach us at info at the Fathering Circle. I'm also going to share this slide with you that'll give you an opportunity to kind of better see what we are doing. It'll have my contact information. And again, my email is info at the Fathering Circle, TheFatheringCircle.com. Info at the Fathering Circle. Again, thank you everyone for attending this. If there's any other information that you need, our website is thefatheringcircle.wordpress.com. Again, thefatheringcircle.wordpress.com. And you can email me at info@thefatheringcircle.org. I appreciate you all. Hope you have a great day and enjoy the rest of the symposium.
Sorry, Eric, this is Bianca. Just to say there is a question in the chat if you wanted to.
Sure, let me stop sharing for a second. Yes, if the question is, if I heard you correctly, you spoke of the tools that as men we need in ensuring effective parenting. Can I have some of those tools, please? No, absolutely. One of the first tools is listening, actively listening, right? Many times, as part of our socialization as men, we are taught to be leaders, to take control, to run our houses, be the king of our castle, so to speak. And oftentimes what that turns into is that we become very myopic. We get tunnel vision, right? And so we often cut out or disregard the feelings of the people that are closest to us in an effort to achieve our goal and our objective. I often tell the story of how, I was married at one time and my wife and our children, we all had a blended family. We had a big household. There were 6 of us all total. And getting everyone out of the door every morning had become a task, and I had become very domineering at that time. And although we were able to leave out on time, the kids got to school on time, my wife got to work on time, I was running a business, things were going well. What I found was that at the end of the day, when we all came back home, nobody wanted to talk to me. Nobody wanted to be in the same room. We all split off into our separate rooms. And as Kurt said in the video, he was doing everything that he had been taught. I was doing everything that I had been taught. Why wasn't I getting the results that I wanted? What I wanted was a close-knit, loving family. And what I got was people that were either afraid of me because I was constantly raising my voice. I was always upset, always angry. And it wasn't until that I relinquished that control, I stepped back and I allowed them to flourish and to do what they needed to do. I started listening. That was the first thing. So one of the tools is listening. The other tool I would say is empathy. A lot of us forget what it's like to be a child. As we get to grow and become adults, we forget the pains that we endured at the hands of adults. We forget what it was like to see the world new and to experience new and to just be full of life and full of energy and not operating on the world's schedule, not operating on anyone else's schedule. And oftentimes that's where the most oppression comes in between parents and children, is when we're trying to force them to conform to our schedule. It's not that they shouldn't, but what it is that we don't allow them the space to cooperate, right? So if you want more information, again, I think you can always email me. I'll be happy to talk to you more in depth. There's a lot of information that we've shared on our website through our blogs. Again, if you want to reach out and figure out how to start a chapter of the Fathering Circle in your area, I'll be happy to help you with that and share some literature with you. And again, really, the tools that we share really just comes back to what it is to be human. We're reconnecting with ourselves, reconnecting with our fellow fathers, and examining ourselves from our boyhood onward, and start to see how society has kind of layered those issues on top of us. So again, I'm more than happy to answer any other questions if you have them. I appreciate your engagement and your interest in this. Thank you, Baraka. I appreciate your email. I got it. I will email you. And
Eric?
Yes.
Hi, this is Shanti. I'm out in California. I'm
Hi,
sorry,
Shanti.
I'm in bed, so I'm not showing my face. But I do want to share what I think is one of the most important workshops I've ever taken to help men and women and boys and girls understand each other. And I took it at John F. Kennedy University. It's a group of men and women with a male and a female leader. And in terms of the fathering and the mothering, you could do this with a mother and a father, and then your group. So all the women meet with the women, all the men meet with the man, and everybody shares what life is like or how they've experienced life from a baby to death. So the women and then the men, and then they switch the leaders. So when the man led us through what it was like to grow up as a boy, and what I'm hearing from you, all the misogyny and be the man of the house and be in charge. And, you know, there's so much pressure on men. By the time I finished the workshop, I felt like I was a walking shield. I was just, you know, you got to be tough. You can't cry. You can't, so many things. It just really helped me understand what in our society, and I'm trying to look more and more globally, but certainly in the US, this is the case. It's so much pressure to be a man. And it helped me understand them. And then I imagined that the men could understand what it's like to be a woman. So anyway, I just like to share that as a workshop because I learned so much from that.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. Give me 1 second. So yes, what you described is half of what you described is exactly what we do, right? And I think one of the reasons why we created and asked the Mothers Council, if you saw in the film, I mentioned the Mothers Council. The reason why we did that is because we recognize that as men, we can create an echo chamber, right? We've already been socialized pretty much the same way all our life. And so if you get us in a room together, it's very easy that we could just repeating the same things over and over again and really not make a lot of progress. So the reason why we convened the Mothers Council was as a check and balance, right? To say, hey, who better to tell you whether or not you're doing a good job as a father than the other parenting partner that you're working with, right? That's the whole purpose of this, is not to just get a star and a pat on the back and say, hey, you're doing a good job, but it's to really examine the process and what we're doing, and understand that we are doing this in collaboration with women. And oftentimes, because of, again, the way we're socialized, the impact is much more harsh on women and children. Let me rephrase that. I won't say it's more harsh. It's harsh on women and children in a way that's different than the way it's harsh on men. You said for yourself that when you came out of that workshop, which was, I don't know how long, just a brief workshop, you felt like you were a walking shield just after coming out of a workshop. Imagine going through your entire, early life. When you're a child, you don't have those protections. You don't have those maturity, that emotional and psychological maturity and experience in the world to be able to push back against that kind of training. And that's what happens. We indoctrinate our children into a certain way of thinking, right? So one of the first things I ask parents early on to get at the root of this, how we are gendered in our childhood and how we are trained to think and act a certain ways, is describe some of the toys that you got as a child. What were some of the toys that you received in general, right? And then think about what your favorite one was. Oftentimes, you'll find that, the young ladies, the women will talk about, oh, I received a doll, I received the dollhouse, I received a baby, I received a kitchen set, I received all these things that, relate to caring for another human being, taking care of a family, raising a child, nurturing, teaching, some type of human interaction, right? When you talk to the boys and you ask them, well, what kind of toys did you receive? A lot of them are, military, G.I. Joe, action figures, the hero figure. There's some who bring, trucks, construction vehicles, nothing that really nurtures a human being, nothing that creates a connection with another human being. Many things that are individualistic, many things that are about violence and power and strength, right? And then we wonder why we live in a society where we live. We don't really bring those two together. Someone else, Barack says, bringing this perspective further down to our communities, even before we become fathers, young boys are not given enough space to express ourselves. And in the bigger picture, our childhood influences our fatherhood. That's why we are seen as inhumane in the way we associate with our families. Well, that's exactly the point of what I'm saying here at the Fathering Circle. When we start our initial circles, one of the first questions that we asked Dad was, where did you learn to become a man? And then when you ask that question, the first thing is, well, I really didn't. No one really taught me, but the reality is it is taught. It's socialization, it's subliminal, it's part of the process. When you're out on the playground, are you taught to cooperate, or are you, taught that the strongest one wins, the fastest one wins, right? And part of it is within our human nature, our animal nature, as we struggle against our environment and against one another to survive. But part of being in a advanced, civilized, so-called civilized society is that we are able to act against that animal nature, right? And create a society that is humane and that works together. And the reality is that once we understand that it's our humaneness that we want to increase and that we want to share. It's not until you become a father or a parent, well, for men, I'll speak for men. It's not oftentimes until you become a father that you even have to think about caring for, raising, nurturing, feeding, dressing another human being. We have a dad in our group who's 52 years old, and he has one child, and he just recently had his child. His child is maybe, 4 or 5 years old. So that means he's able to go 40 plus years in his life, never having to actually physically care for another human being. And what that's done for him, and he shared this in our group, is that it really is an eye-opening experience once you, as a man, become a father, because all the rules go out the window. You can't be in control. You can't it just doesn't work. Being the quote unquote man in the house doesn't stop a child from crying when it's hungry. You have to figure out the needs of that little human being. And empathy and listening, again, are the tools that we first encourage. Someone else said, yes, the child is the father, mother of the adult. How does the fathering circle, the mother council, interface with the schools? That's a great question. We haven't engaged with the schools yet. Well, let me back up. We actually have. So the Philadelphia School District actually offers something called FACT, which is family and community training. And there's an opportunity for community organizations to come into the school district and actually teach a course. And so the Fathering Circle was awarded a contract with the School District of Philadelphia many years ago, where we were able to go in and teach a 12-week course on parenting from the Fathering Circle perspective. So that's the most direct impact that we've been able to have with schools and school districts. But the fundamental thought is we want to work on the male socialization at the heart of the family, because again, the reason, not again, but one of the reasons why we're called the Fathering Circle is because we understand that our impact on society is like throwing a stone into a river, into a pond, right? You throw that stone into a body of water, it creates these concentric circles. It creates a ripple effect. And oftentimes what happens is our behavior as men and fathers in society creates a ripple effect. And so we believe that if we can change that core socialization of men, that core training about what it means to be a man and a father and a good human being, then that creates a ripple effect that helps our parenting partners, that helps our children, and then helps our children interact better when they're with other children in the school environment. And so, yes, that's pretty much the thought, is that we want to start at the center of the issue, which is the family, and then work our way out from there. Someone asked, I would appreciate if I can have the materials or deliverers you're using on FACT activity. As a young man, I also benefit from that. That's true. What I can do is we can go back into the school district website and share some of the handouts that we did. I'll make sure to get those to Bianca. Or if you email me at info@thefatheringcircle.org, that's actually the best way to follow up, because we can have more of a direct conversation. I can send you the handouts that we would typically use in that training, and again, continue the conversation beyond the symposium. Okay. Anyone else have any other questions? I really, again, I want to just share with you the honor that I have being here. Thank you, Shanti. I appreciate you. And I appreciate you being up this early. You said you're on California time, and I know I know it was an early rise for me, and I know it's even earlier for you. So for those folks who are in the wee hours of the morning getting up and watching this, really appreciate it. Heather, it was an honor to speak to you. So thank you. Thank you for attending. I really appreciate that. And again, I really wish, we could have more conversation, because I really enjoy the interaction and the questions that you have. It's really hard to kind of cover everything in a presentation, right? You don't know where the conversation could possibly go. That's one of the reasons why, again, we do the circles the way we do. Because it's that one-on-one human connection. And I will say that one of the other techniques that we use is something that's called co-counseling. Co-counseling is this process where it is not a typical therapy counseling session where you have a therapist or a counselor and a patient, where there's a power dynamic. The techniques that we use in co-counseling are really put each person on an even playing field, where you get to counsel me for a few minutes. I get to counsel you. We recognize that we're not there to give necessarily advice, but to offer a safe space for people to open up, for people to share what they need to share, to get out what they need to get out. And by providing that safe space, it's unlike any other place in society. Most of the times when people talk, folks want to give advice. So again, Baraka, if you want another tool that we use, it's provide a safe space. You don't always have to provide an answer. You don't always have to give someone the answer, right? Sometimes it's really just about being there and allowing your humanity, your humaneness to be present, to make that person feel heard and protected. And then what you see is that there are layers to their responses. At first, people will give you very basic, no, I'm okay, right? It's like when you ask someone, how are you doing today? Oh, I'm fine. But if you ask them again and again, well, you know what? Actually, I got up kind of tired this morning. And then you ask again, well, you know what? I've been having a hard time lately, right? That is just part of who we are as human beings. But because of our society moves so quickly, we often don't give people the space to dig down to the real answers, right? And so that's what we do at the Fathering Circle. So again, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, well, if not, Bianca, I want to say thank you again for providing this opportunity to helping, me get the presentation together this morning, and for co-hosting with me. Anything you would like to share?
No, that's great. Thank you, Eric. We really appreciated the session and appreciate you making the time to be here with us today. Yeah, and thank you everyone for joining.
Excellent. So thank you. Thank you.